Good afternoon. Well, you might have noticed you're not getting normal internet speeds at the moment. Downloading some data, uploading some data may be taking longer than it should. It's now understood there's been a break in one of the cables that connects us to the global internet. The British Broadcasting Corporation reporting the break happening around 45 kilometres away from Durban, but they've also been problems with some of the cables in the Red Sea. Mandla Ngcobo is from Accelerit Technologies Mandla. Good afternoon to you. Is there any confirmation now about where the problem actually is? Do we know if it's maybe the CCOM cable that's causing the problem?
Yeah, afternoon, Stephen, and afternoon to the viewers. Yeah, so it definitely is the undersea cable, not necessarily the CCOM cable, but as part of a consortium, there's a myriad of cables that connect us to the different continents. So one of those cables, or a few more, the investigations are still ongoing, have been affected. The actual location of where the break is, there is still investigation, but we are hopeful that very soon it'll be sorted out or found.
I mean, there are other cables, there's several cables of these big cables that join us to the internet. There's satellite links as well. Yeah. What impact is this particular break having? What impact are people noticing?
All right, so what happens, Stephen, especially with real-time conferencing solutions like Zoom that we are using currently, so you'll find that when you make a call, it gets routed all the way to where the servers of Zoom are located. And those servers are usually international. So what it means is that the signal has got to traverse. So it leaves, if I am an ISP like Accelerit, it will leave my data center. It will go to London and eventually terminate at the nearest location where Zoom hosts its servers. Now, when there is a break such as the one that has taken place, it would affect the communication. So it would mean that routing, the direct routing, would have to maybe take a different. So as you said, there's also the satellite option, which is a little bit slower. So it may take that path, and you may find suddenly that your Zoom calls or your Teams calls are not as crisp as they used to be or as succinct as they used to be.
You won't notice WhatsApp messages. I mean, we forget sometimes that our WhatsApp messages go around the world, but you're probably not going to notice on that, so your boss still is able to keep tabs on you, right?
No, 100%. So there is what is called real-time communication, and there is what we call asynchronous communication. So asynchronous means I send a signal, and at some point when it is able to be received by a device, it gets delivered. So, mostly, especially with WhatsApp communication, where you're sending a WhatsApp to someone on the other side of the world, or even someone sitting next to you, you may find that it goes all the way to the US and then it comes back to the person who's sitting next to you. You may not necessarily notice a lag in the range of milliseconds. But on a call, on something that is more real-time, you may start to hear a little bit of stutter or jitter there when you're on a real-time call. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, I mean, look, the notion that your boss can tap into your WhatsApp calls, I think they're very secure now, so that isn't likely.
How long does it take a problem like this to be fixed? I imagine if it is a break in a cable, a ship has to go out, find the break, pull up the cable, I presume, fix the cable, and then slowly lower it down again.
Yeah, it is a very painful experience, Stephen, and I think it's been exacerbated by the issue of pirates, right? So because in a lot of these routes that were ideal in the past, the shortest routes, I mean, the closest sort of, the shortest distance between 2 points is always a straight line. So you'll find that when we're trying to connect to different continents, we may take a route that goes via a particular ocean, which if you find that it suddenly is infested by pirates, it makes it very, very difficult. So even if you know where the issue is, there must be negotiations or some kind of security measures for you to get to where the issue is, right? And once you're there, you then have got to send divers in there to go and haul up the cable. It gets hauled up. There is patching that takes place. And generally, these cables, it's not just one strand because it's connecting a lot of users in one go. And usually there is provision for future. So you find that people have got to splice. So by splice, I mean joining. You've got to join cables in the thousands, right, of these fiber cables, very, very tiny cables using very, very delicate machinery in sometimes stormy water. So it does take a bit of time for them to be sorted out. But the good news is that as ISPs, now what we do is if I have got to connect my users to London, for example, so I will choose a closer path which is the straight line. So I'm going to go on an undersea cable, but I'll also have a backup solution, right? Which means that I may want to route the traffic via satellite link or via another ocean. So in case I've got a breakage on one of my primary links, I'm able to reroute your traffic and still keep you connected.
So, okay, we have these breaks. I mean, I know there's a backup for the backup in this industry. We're obviously not in any danger of being cut off from the internet. But to the point where you really just can't use it anymore, I mean, it would take quite a few cables to be broken for that to happen, right?
It would definitely take a lot of cables, and even with the undersea cables. So a lot of these international users, so if you, or providers, so if you recall earlier on, I mentioned that if you're making a call, it'll go to the provider's nearest data center. So we're seeing a lot of these international players that help us with connectivity solutions co-locating in the local data centers. So what it means is that a lot of the connectivity, I'll use Netflix as an example. So in our data centers, Accelerit, we've got cache devices. What it means is Netflix has sent us these servers where they push the latest episode or most frequently viewed episodes to us. They put it in our data center in Johannesburg. Where that helps is that with a break like this, you may find that with other ISPs, immediately they get cut off, or a lot of the other service providers struggle. But if you've got these caching solutions, you're able to still keep your users connected. And Google also does that through Akamai, they do that as well. So all the Yahoo traffic. So you find that even though there is a break internationally, you still are able to do 80 to 90% of the work that you need to do. And it'll be just those few providers that really, really don't have any local backup solutions where you get cut off completely. And that will also be in the event that, as you said, your provider doesn't have a backup of a backup.
How does the economics of this work? So I pay an internet service provider to have internet at home or through my cell phone provider or whatever it is. They then, I presume, pay the people who run the fiber cable that goes around the world. When they don't get what they need, what happens then? I mean, is this the kind of thing that people are insured for? There must be quite an important set of economics behind it all.
Yeah, so, what it is it becomes one of those scenarios where, of course, you can get some kind of insurance and you can get a backup of a backup. So the economics of it is that cascades the costs. So it makes it difficult for me as a service provider to give you your service at an affordable cost, right? Because you probably won't accept it if I say to you that because I need a backup of a backup, I now need to charge you a premium of 300 rands on your line. So unfortunately, a lot of these costs, you find that they are absorbed by the service provider, by your service provider. And this is why we welcome solutions that allow us to backup solutions, so which will allow us to cache a lot of the content. So by saying cache it, it means we bring it closer to home so that we can still deliver services to you at an affordable cost. Now, so if you're dealing with an undersea provider, what they will do, they will protect themselves. They will say to you, it's fine, Mandla, we see that you're providing services to your users, and what you want is some kind of guarantee. So how about instead of taking one line from us, you take a secondary line so that it serves as some kind of backup. But what they don't do, right, and what you can't get really is insurance on it to say that if a user is affected and there is loss of revenues, you are able to claim against that. So there isn't a solution that works like that at the moment, or at least not a widely commercially available one that we subscribe to as service providers, because the cost would just be astronomical.
Mandla Ngcobo, really appreciate that. Very clear explanation of quite a complex problem. Thank you very much indeed.